Today on the Hobby Grotto, we're painting a Gandalf style wizard. Starting with the base coats, the majority of this model is going to be Dark Reaper, so let's get that out of the way first. And this is a nice dark bluey grey, perfect for Gandalf style wizard robes. You always want to make sure with the base layers that your paint's nice and thin, so even for a darker colour like this, I'm still doing 2 coats. This mini is an old Ral Partha sculpt, and he could be any kind of wizard really, but I was watching Fellowship of the Ring recently, and I was getting a strong Gandalf vibe here, so it had to be done. I think grey wizards look cool anyway, because they have such a classic look. The beard is grey as well of course, but it's going to be lighter than the clothing, so we're basing with Dawnstone, and then from this base we can make it as light as we want later. Some people paint wizard hats blue, and I'm going to be one of those people. I don't really know why I'm painting it blue, I just like the look of it really, and it helps break up all the grey on the model. Wizard hats are special and magical generally, so it should be a bit of a focal point, but you could just paint this in the same grey as the robes if you wanted. All the other details, whether they're wood or leather, are getting a base coat of Rhinox hide. This is a great go-to paint for anything of this nature, as it's nice and dark, and it won't take attention away from the focal points of the mini. It's a great paint to have in your collection. A dark wash like Nuln Oil is going to be perfect for shading all the greys and browns in this colour scheme, so we're going to cover the entire model, and this is also going to give us some nice black lining. With clothing that has large amounts of folds like this, it's simple to almost glaze up highlights in thin layers. The initial base layer here of pure Dark Reaper creates our first layer of highlights, as we're leaving the wash in the deepest crevices, and then I'm just slowly mixing a lighter grey like Dawnstone to the Dark Reaper to blend up in stages. I'm also doing a final highlight of pure Dawnstone on the very edges of the cloak and robes to give a bit more emphasis to the details. And if you wanted to spend some more time on the mini after this, you could highlight even further with a lighter white grey, just on those extreme highlights. As with all colours, I like to come back with the base layer to fix up any issues with the shade. I'm mixing Dawnstone with the blue to keep a bit of that grey theme going throughout the model, and then you can just make the blue paler with the grey for subsequent highlights. Again, this is nice and thin, so I'm almost glazing the highlights here. Now, because I've painted the leather and the wood the same colour, I'm going to highlight them slightly differently to create some more visual interest, and this is a good way to break up these kind of smaller details that don't require as much attention. For the leather parts, I'm mixing in a bone colour for the highlights, and this will make it all a bit paler and faded looking, which works well for this kind of material. And then for the wooden staff, I'm mixing in some XV88 with the Rhinox hide, which will give it a warmer yellowy tone. The staff is nice and detailed, so we can even do some pure XV88 highlights too. There's not much skin to do here, but it's still a focal point, particularly on the hands, so it still needs good attention. This initial mix layer is going to bring back some consistency to the colour after the Nuln Oil. And then we're going to come back through with pure Kislev flesh. I even like to mix some white with the Kislev flesh for a couple of final extreme highlights. Can't forget to paint his rings. Looks like he's got a knuckle duster on actually. Can't unsee it. I'm highlighting the beard with Administratum Grey, and depending on how light you want the beard, you can mix white with this and do a few more highlights. I'm keeping it fairly dark overall though. And that's my Gandalf style Grey Wizard complete. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Hobby Grotto.